out of business. That's my new verbal slogan that I'm going to be running. So we're putting death out of business here on Debt Nation. And look, we have a very important show because we are moving into the campaign mode of Debt Nation, where we're running now for the White House. We need viewers. We need action. We need people signing up to the USTP. We need people running around on the streets with signs, with slogans. Go to your local state and congressperson. Write letters. Get out. Welcome back to the show, gentlemen. And I'm so glad to have you both here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
No problem. All right. So, Ben Zion, can you inform us what's Charlie Cam doing here? You broke it on the road show, but let's formalize this. What's Charlie Cam doing here? What happened in your world at the USTP there and during your campaign? What's going on?
Yeah, I don't think that that too many of the USTP loyalists and people who've been following what's going on missed the memo, but it bears repeating. Charlie Cam was gracious enough to agree to be my running mate, and we've been working together, making some incredible plans for promoting this Futurist New Deal for America ticket, making some different wonderful press arrangements and tour arrangements. All kinds of exciting things coming down the pipeline for the FND and for the USTP. And I really want to thank Charlie again because there was a time when this primary was tough on me. We were fighting and going back and forth, and I was tired. And Charlie, he gave me so many words of wisdom at that time. And as I said before at my acceptance speech, he was the first person to endorse me. I think he saw the strength of the Futurist New Deal for America platform in its own right. And I'm really appreciative that to be here and working with him on this. And I know we're going to do some incredible stuff. Some of the things that we're working on, they will blow your mind. So I'll hand it over to Charlie. I'm awestruck to be able to work with this man.
And if you're wondering, Ben Zion's joining us. He's on the road. He's out there. He's already campaigning, so that's why he's got the low tech going on here. But that's fine. So it's good. You're always going, Ben. That's good. Charlie, welcome back to the show. Good to see you. What happened on your end, and what have you got to tell us?
Yeah, well, I was watching the candidates and looking them up and checking them all out and watching the debates, and I was able to find out more and more, and I thought that Ben was clearly the best suited for it, and we did do that podcast together, but that just reinforced my ideas of what he was of his qualifications, and so I was more than happy to help strategize with him and see what I could do to help him. As he might have mentioned, I was the first one to endorse him because I like I said, I really thought he was qualified to be the candidate with a good vision and also with the enthusiasm to do it. So that was part of it. And then when we were at RADFest, when he approached me and asked me if I would be his running mate, I was surprised and honored, and I'm more than happy to do that. And I look forward for us to work together and win the candidate, win the presidency, or at least spread the word as much as possible, and see how it all turns out.
Yeah, it's all about that. It's all about that building behind you, right there, that White House. It's all about getting in there somehow with an idea, with some influence, and you can change the world. Sorry, Ben, what were you going to say?
No, we were just in the pre-interview. We were all talking about how policy matters and dealings within the two-party system. A lot of these things are in flux. We're at a time of great change in history. And that's a good thing for the United States Transhumanist Party because this organization, anybody who's looked at the charter, anybody who's looked at what we're doing with the Futurist New Deal, it's pretty apparent that we have a lot to offer. And it's a time in history when those kinds of changes really could be made. We were talking about how this current administration was an outside shot at the earliest stages in 2015. And here we are. We have unlike the person in question, Mr. Trump, we are not sham populists. We have a legitimate slate of reforms that we will enact. We're not going to be shining folks on, and so that people can see that sort of integrity. I think very well in what we're trying to do.
Yeah, so let's talk more about what the short, medium, and long-term strategy is with this campaign. I mean, short term, sorting out the party, just giving everybody cabinet positions, roles, duties. Medium term, Ben or Charlie, what's your short, medium, and long-term goals, and what do you intend to? How do you intend to do them? Ben, starting with you.
Yes. Well, there's a lot of different elements of the Futurist New Deal. And so, for example, we've been talking quite a lot about the climate crisis and the novel approach of the United States Transhumanist Party to the climate crisis. Now, our viewers might not be aware, I haven't made a formal announcement yet, but Daniel Yelishvili, a very intelligent young man who's done a lot of research and a lot of presentations on geoengineering approaches to the climate crisis, is now our climate science advisor to the Futurist New Deal for America in that committee. And so he and I are going to be doing some shows together to talk to folks because sometimes talking about proactive solutions of this kind, people talk about regulatory solutions to climate change, but that's not going to be enough template. So we can do more with this by taking on these civil engineering, larger scale engineering projects of this kind, and actually have a better chance of staving off these existential risks which derive from the climate crisis. And so we're going to go on some shows. Some folks who are critical, not only of geoengineering, but to some degree of climate science itself. So we're going to go and do some shows and try and get the word out for this. The point being, we have a lot of interesting elements in the Futurist New Deal, and we're going to be also promoting to some of these crypto guys and blockchain bloggers and journalists much the same way to get the word out for this iVoting system, this blockchain voting system is quite central to this platform. So a lot of interesting strategies, also travel arrangements for presentations being made. I'm going to be in DC from the 15th to the 25th, and then in New York for about that length of time. And then I'm going to be on to San Francisco after that, all for a whirlwind tour of a number of events and presentations in those three cities, and then some things beyond. So a lot of exciting things going on there. And people can be looking forward to seeing all of those presentations live streamed or on video as well.
Yeah, and we hope we can follow you here and push for this campaign as hard as we can. Keep all over the news for all the audience to watch, whoever might be interested, because we think this is a really important project here. Charlie, short, medium, and long-term goals and plans and strategies. What have you got for us as a VP?
Oh, I'm just waiting for something to happen to Ben so I can take over. No, my plans obviously are very, the same. They coincide with Ben's plans. As he was mentioning about the climate people, I thought that's important because, for example, I held my conference back in 2007 in Chicago. It was a 3-day conference, and the Transhumanist Party, it was hosted by the World Transhumanist Association, and that was who I did my. That's the company that I did my. That was under that umbrella for the conference, and even though it was about transhumanism, what I did was I dedicated a part of that conference to climate and green energy because, if you think about the technology that's going to enhance humans, that transhumanists focus on, which a lot of it is considered with regard to nanotechnology, that same kind of technology is the kind that can help fix our climate. So I was able to work that in, and what that did was it brought a lot of people interested and came to the conference because they were concerned about the climate. But once they were there, they opened up to the idea of what transhumanism was about, which is, somewhat related. I mean, we want to live forever, and we want the planet to live forever. So I think that's important to focus on, because the goal is to, as Ben has mentioned before, about increasing our base to at least 10,000 members of the USTP. So I'm going to help him in whatever way I can, and if I am able to go to various events that he attends, I'll be happy to do so. A lot of people know me from that song I did. I am the very model of a singularitarian. So I'm working on a new one. It says, I am the very model of a TP VP candidate. I'm a combination transhuman, immortalist, and patriot. Aggressively, I'm pushing all my running mate's good policies that you can find concisely in his futurist New Deal treatise. So, I'm working on it.
I love it.
Man,
I love
that's
it.
awesome.
Yeah, it brings a lot of energy. It brings a lot of energy. I love the artistic. Your artistic streak, Charlie Cam, is always fantastic. And your songs are great. And I really like the Sound of Music one, to be honest. I thought that was the really good, and it says a lot in there in the Sound of Music one as well. There's a lot of deep stuff in that one that makes me think about everything a lot. Sorry, Ben, were you saying something?
Oh no. Well, I did just want to say that Charlie Cam has a way of energizing people,
Yeah.
a way of bringing them out of their shells. But what he was saying just before that, he has a lot of really incredible policy ideas. He has a lot of insights into what we should be doing in this country. So I'm just so overjoyed that he's a part of this team. And I too am looking forward to those events where we're going to be appearing together. I think people will be really excited about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the thing. We want you to get off Detonation. Nation. Well, I mean, keep coming to Detonation, but we want to get you into bigger media. We want to get you into mainstream media. We want to get these ideas out there. We want to get this movement as large, as quick and as large as we can, to say that there is a different alternative to the mainstream media, to the mainstream narrative, to mainstream politics. We don't want to keep getting everything scooped, by these Andrew Yang type. As much as you might like or hate these people, Bernie Sanders, Andrew Yang, or whatever, they're now pretty much your enemy. It doesn't mean you can't play politics with them. It doesn't mean you can't listen to them or whatever. But these people are running against you now in an official capacity. So you have to treat them like they treat you, and embrace some of their tactics, and that means hit the road, Jack, and don't look back. No more. So we'll forward on, and this is good. And Zoltan's going to give you a hand with the media side of things. And this green energy thing, I think it's really cool. There's a lot of green energy policies and a lot of green energy conferences. If people realize that transhumanism and green energy go hand in hand, you might be able to. I mean, we might be able to scoop up some of those disenfranchised green voters. Your platform is large enough to absorb some of that left wing base. And as an alternative to the right, in terms of you have libertarians within the party. You had anarcho-capitalists. I'm not sure what Mr. Shatke's doing, but you have anarcho-capitalist type thinkers, and you have definitely a lot of anti-war type thinkers. And I mean, you could use geopolitical events that are happening today. You could use political events that are happening today, and you can say the message, the true message, the firm message. You're the alternative. You're not pro-war. You're not pro-empire. You're not pro. Slaughtering people for geopolitical or power plays. You're not, you're everything that they're not. You're for investment in science. You're for secular values. You're for, all the things that transhumanists stand for. We need to get that message out there, and you can find gaps and independent voters and disenfranchised voters from both the left and the right who might be willing to just say, hey, hang on, this stuff, this stuff that they're talking about, it resonates with me. Artificial wombs, AI, super AI, drone technology, high energy beams. I mean, the ethics of advanced technology in war. I mean, you guys can get the message out there and say that we are officially a platform, an alternative political party that stands right outside of the narrative that is so pervasive in politics today, and then that politics is a lot of negativity. It's a lot. So Charlie, you'll do a good job on this, bringing that energy to the campaign, and because you tell jokes and things, and that's great. I mean, that's what you need as a crowd pleaser at the start of any sort of public speaking engagement, right?
Oh yeah, you want to make people feel comfortable with you and not be too stiff or anything like that. But like you mentioned, that one Sound of Music parody video I did, it was very fun. A lot of people liked that one a lot. But like you said, I incorporated a lot of political messages in there, and I think that's it's funny whether you like Trump or not, or you hate him. He goes on stage, he basically does a comedy routine.
Yeah.
And he gets across his policies in a very simple meme-like manner, where he just says, build that wall, and whether you think that's crazy or not, and a lot of people do, but the way he does things, and I don't mean his personality, because there's a lot to be desired there, I think. But yeah, you just said we have those are our opponents now, so we got to start attacking them. No, I'm kidding. But the point is, it's just that you're right. I mean, you want to have fun, but you do want to get your point across.
Yeah, and if you aim high, you might accidentally scoop up some of these lower level municipal governments. Some lower level state positions might just fall into the lap of the transhumanists. I mean, anything's possible when you aim really high. You might be gifted something lower on the spectrum along the way, and that's what if you can get any derivative, any transhumanist candidate into any of these lower levels of government, I mean, that's a huge win. That's a huge, massive step forward for the movement. That's massive. I mean, that's really, really big. So, so aim really high, aim for the building behind you, aim for the White House, and, hopefully you might scoop up something low along the way. And that in itself is a huge win. I mean, if you can open up the message even more, I mean, Zoltan has, been a big icebreaker, and he's breaking up the ice. But we know with icebreakers, you break up the ice will reform behind if something doesn't come quick enough. So get in behind that big icebreaker, use that momentum that Zoltan has beautifully smashed away all that resistance. And use that, use that traction, use that mechanism. We have other advantages. I'll be here plugging away on detonation. We'll see how that goes. I mean, that's just another component in the strategy. Positioning, speech writing is very important, and we have a lot of intelligent people in the party, in the community, who can dedicate their time to assisting in writing positive, dynamic, interesting speeches that speak to the left, to the right, to the disenfranchised voters, to the independents who are seeking a new path out, of the impasse, and we can all of this is achievable if you work together as a community. We can put transhumanism and we can put the Transhumanist Party on the map in the United States. And if that's really important, because if we can put it on the map in the United States, that bleeds out to the whole rest of the world, and the rest of the world will be forced to watch that move. They will be forced to. There's no way you can ignore what happens in the United States, in the U.S. politics. Ben, what do you say?
Yes. And, a moment ago you said you were talking a little bit about other candidates in this presidential race and some of what they are doing, and some of the strategies and policy approaches in that, and in the two-party system. there's some strong pros and cons there, aside from the Trump thing, which is tending to be a little more negative. But that's something that I have said repeatedly, is that in terms of the futurist New Deal, federal land dividend, this basic income for every adult age 18 to 63, that is $1,000 a week, $52,000 a year for those people. That's a necessary stopgap to get our society safely to a fully fledged post-industrial society, and ultimately to a post-scarcity society. But the point of my saying that I'm running to the right of myself is that we could get in the weeds with teaching the oligarchs a lesson, showing them who's boss. Maybe that takes 10, 20 years. By that time, some of these problems are maybe a different set of concerns. But the Futurist New Deal, it's funded through a novel mechanism. It's true that it doesn't significantly raise the marginal tax rate for the super rich. But what it does raise it, and it does address many of these other concerns with a corporatist state that we have real concerns about. But we want to fix problems. This is about harm reduction. This is about doing right by folks. It's not about making a big show or teaching somebody who's boss. It's about building a better America, and I think that's a key point that is worth restating.
Yeah, and Charlie Cam, an interesting thing is Ben Zion has repeatedly made promises to try and turn the Transhumanist Party to the best of his ability to get this message over, that the Transhumanist Party is a central node to third-party organizations that are screaming out for some sort of integration, whether that be H+, People Unlimited, Debt Nation, Radfest, Life Extension, Alcor. I mean, whatever. I mean, whoever. I mean, that this party can become a central mechanism. Go to events. Within reason, but that has been a campaign promise. And you're someone. I'm so glad you're here, because you're someone who's had experience with these third parties. You know a lot of people in these third parties. I mean, you go to Radfest and you're the talk of the town. So have you got any strategies to help cement that campaign promise? Have you got any way that any ideas of how to make the USTP a central node so that all these third parties can operate in an efficient manner to try and push home some of these messages?
Yeah, I need you to bail me out, pal.
Yeah. The thing is, you're right. I am affiliated with a lot of these different organizations that are peripherally connected, and I'm actually going to be one of the hosts. I'm co-hosting Transvision 2020, which is, like I mentioned earlier, I was the host of Transvision 2007. So this will be the first time I'm hosting since then. And it's Transvision 2020. We're going to be holding it in California, in Los Angeles. And we're actually going to be doing it right before the November election, presidential election in 2020. So we're going to be doing it probably tentatively, we don't have the exact dates yet, but it's supposed to be about the end of September. And we'll be, like I said, it's going to be hosted by myself and Natasha Vita-Moore. And she's the director at the Humanity Plus, which is the brand that became the name after the World Transhuman Association. And so, obviously we're going to have Ben there talking on stage and to help promote this. And those events are attended by all of the, connected organizations that you mentioned earlier. So I'm going to do whatever I can to keep promoting this and see how we can really elevate this into a bigger way. And, another thing is that at that event, we're right now trying to get celebrities. And obviously, when I had my conference back in 2007, I was able to get William Shatner to come. And that was a big deal because that made a lot of people show up. And so holding it in LA this time means we're going to probably be able to get even easier to get some celebrities, and especially because the transhumanist movement has gotten so much more popular since 2007. So I'm looking forward to that. And then, by association, that's really big for the USTP. So there's all sorts of possibilities. I know Ben and I have been discussing different strategies, how we can promote things. We're going to see what we can do. Zoltan had a brilliant idea of having a coffin bus or going around the country that brought a lot of attention. So we're trying to think up something. We got some different ideas. I don't want to do a spoiler yet, so we'll let you know when we do. But we're hoping to get something really interesting that's equally interesting to what Zoltan did to really bring a lot of attention.
Mm-hmm. And we have a long list of ideas of this kind. But we want to also be reaching out to folks. If you have an idea for something that could really capture the public imagination and bring the ideas of life extension and futurism to the people of the United States, you should reach out to myself, benzion2020@gmail.com, or participate in these many online forums. We're going to have surveys on the Transhumanist Party group. And a discussion. We have discussion groups at the USTP website as well for this sort of thing. So reach out, give us your ideas. We're going to have anything's on the table, and probably quite a few of these things will ultimately be enacted. So you can participate in that way as well.
Yeah, and while we're all talking about this subject, detonations are the same thing. We're in a growth phase. We need your help in the general public for ideas. How can we improve our service? What topics would you like to see? What guests would you like on more? What type of topics would you like to see? Who would you like to have us on? I know I've had a few people talk to me, and they said, all right, now's the time. We really want to see Aubrey de Grey. We really want to see Liz Parrish. We really want to see Natasha Vedermore. We really want to see all these big people, Jim Stroll and stuff on your show now. So I'm going to move in that direction. Tons of people said that, so I'll do that now. But also, yeah, what other topics would you like to hear about? Because we got a lot of filler content. I mean, we're going to move, as I said, we're moving into campaign mode to support the USTP and the Ben Zion 2020. We were going to support whoever. I mean, this is the thing. We weren't just, if Ben didn't come through, I would be saying Rachel Haywire 2020. It wasn't. This isn't. It's not. It's about the idea, and it's about using the Transhumanist Party as a vehicle. It just happens to be Ben Zion 2020. So let's use that. Let's do that. It's Ben Zion and Charlie Cam. So on we plow with that. But yeah, the audience, jump in. Give us a hand as well. Send people my way for interviews. We got to find as much content as we can to keep this machine moving while we press on with this campaign for the Ben Zion 2020 campaign, because it's too small to play petty politics. It's too small to play any games. We need all hands on deck at this particular stage, and hopefully there will be lubrication, and hopefully all the machine will move faster and smoother in the future. But right now, you can fit everyone into a room at a World Vision, Transvision, the Nick Bostrom thing that Charlie Cam you're talking about, and that's not good enough for me. I don't want to be able to fit them into a room. I want to have to hire a stadium, we want this to be a worldwide thing where everyone can't afford to turn up. This is it's not good enough. That's my point, right? It's good, but it's not good enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and of what you were saying about party unity, I'm reminded of what Zoltan had to say. Zoltan Ispen has to say at an earlier stage in this, towards the beginning of the primary season. He said, whatever your strategy, whatever your past, whatever your profile in this, however you're engaging with folks, you're doing a service by putting yourself out there, by engaging in whatever way you see fit, because life extension is worth fighting for, and nobody has the master plan as to how to do that. We all have to do what we can, and I was really moved by what he said, because a lot of people in that primary, they had different kinds of personalities, strong personalities. But they were willing to put themselves out there and try and see that we were able to move the ball for life extension and futurism. And my hat's off to all of those people who participated in that primary. And I hope to be working closely with all of them.
Yeah, and Charlie Cam, you know, how close to you is this life extension message? I think I know the answer, but you know, there's some, you know, there's some people who they say, oh, this is only a life extension party now. I mean, you know, do you worry about other issues as well, such as AI and space colonization? But firstly, how close to life is life extension to your heart?
Oh, it's well. Funny you should say close to my heart. Let me just the light here. Look, speaking of what's close to my heart, here's my cryonics bracelet. You know, right next to my heart actually. So yeah, it's very important to me. I think you know, life extension is really what it should be all about. I think that should be the main focus in a way that you know, you want, you know, ultimately it's kind of like the airplane policy. You know, when there's decompression and the oxygen masks drop, you got to put it on yourself first before you help your neighbor. Well, you know, if we all talk about doing great things, but if we die, well, what good is that? So it's important that we, you know, take care of collectively all of ourselves. This isn't a selfish thing. It's not just about me. When I talk about life extension, I want everybody to live indefinitely. And so I think that should be a priority. And as I mentioned earlier on, the technology that's going to be used for us to live longer, like nanotechnology, is the same kind of stuff that's going to be used. You know, we can use nanobots to go into the atmosphere and maybe recorrect it so it's not over polluted and we're not overheating the climate. So there's so much crossover and people just need to be aware of it. So life extension is a big part of it. I think there's other elements to it, but you know, there's no reason why. I mean, I don't want that to be lessened in any manner. I think it's a real important part of it.
All right, fantastic. And you know, one of these, what can people do once they get the message? I mean, you know, Detonation. Originally, I was going to talk about sort of finance and stock and ETFs and stuff, and what you could invest in terms of these technologies, emerging technologies and things. And it quickly changed out of that to just what it is today. But my original plan was to let's get people excited on the financial side, so that you know, so that people could shift some of their money into some of these ETFs or these mutuals or these stocks that would promote, on a financial sense, these companies that support these emerging technologies and emerging endeavors. Charlie, have you got a message to the population of what they can do once they discover that there's a rallying point? I came off a show with the Christian transhumanists, and they said, you know, and we kind of agreed with each other where we said, yeah, it's kind of like these things are popping up in the news more and more, you know, these artificial wombs, cryonics, CRISPR, you know, and people say in isolation, they say, oh, that's interesting, it's weird, that's another technology, that's kind of interesting, and what Elon Musk is doing with SpaceX or Solar City or Neuralace, that's kind of interesting. But actually, they're missing the fact, because there's an education deficit, that there's actually a place that talks about all of this stuff in a convergence. What's your kind of message that you want to drive home during this campaign of what people can do once they access the information? So, because accessing the information is important, yeah, but if you don't do anything with it, you know, is that you know, what's the point of that? So, what do you have to say to that?
Yeah, no, I'll tell you something. It's interesting you brought that up because you know, I've gone to the Radfest, just ended last week, or this, you know, just the other day, and I've been there 4 times and I've done presentations of videos and such. But this time I actually had a booth there for a new organization that I formed recently. It's a not-for-profit. I formed it with 2 of my futurist colleagues, Ray Lewis and Nancy Nicholas, and it's called the Institute to Expedite the Singularity. And what our goal is almost what you described, in that we want to try to round up a lot of very, very wealthy individuals, billionaires, to make sure that we can kind of redirect all their funds into things that will move the singularity forward. And with the singularity, as Ray Kurzweil described, being, you know, where technology will be doubling instantaneously by 2045, that's essentially a metaphor the Singularity for all of the amazing technology that's coming. And so the goal would be move that sooner. In fact, Ben Goertzel wrote a book or an article. It was called "We Could Get to the Singularity in 10 Years If We Really, Really Try." So, myself and my colleagues were inspired by that kind of writing, and what he said essentially, and which is true because it is. We live in a capitalist world. Is that if you put enough money towards anything, you should be able to accomplish it. And so one of the things that Bill Falloon is the founder of Life Extension Products. He presented on stage that he talked about this fellow named T. Boone Pickens. He's a billionaire, and he was a guy who he's this billionaire, and he's involved in sports, and he built a football. He spent $250 million to build a brand new football field. And he was talking to Bill Falloon, and Bill Falloon says, "Hey, well, maybe you should put some of that money towards life extension and your health." And he says, "Well, I'm feeling fine, Bill. Don't worry about it. I'm fine." Well, he died. He died recently, and unfortunately, he's got this football field, but he's over there now in a box, all in ashes. So people are not prioritizing properly, and that's kind of what our institute wants to do. So, that's part of what I'm trying. And I'm excited about that. This institute only started officially only a month ago, but we've already got a lot of the speakers that you named as part of our advisory board, including Ben Goertzel and Aubrey de Grey and Bill Falloon and Jose Cordero. And so we're hoping that this will just keep growing. We want to get more and more people of means to get on board, move this whole technology thing forward. And so I'm excited that we've got a guy like Ben Zion running, and I'm honored, that he picked me as a running mate. But I'm also going to try to use that to leverage, both of these things. The USTP and this candidacy and my vice presidency candidacy and my institute can help each other move the values that Ben puts forward and the Transhumanist Party forward, hopefully in a faster way.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of synergy there, and incredible. And speaking of good synergy, our friend, our media synergy, our friend Brent Nally, as kind of breaking news. So over the course of this weekend, Charlie and I and Brent got together at the presentation center for the Institute to Expedite the Singularity, and we did an interview, and that interview's just been posted moments ago. So folks can also be checking that out and learning a little bit more about the incredible work that's being done by the Institute to Expedite the Singularity. All of these disciplines, all of these areas that are things that we must be focusing on. We don't want to only focus on tech policy. We also want to focus on anything that we can do to expedite radical life extension and other positive human development outcomes that derive from advanced technology. So folks can see what we were doing there at the presentation center in the form of this talk, and also learn a little bit more and get a little more of an inside view of Charlie's incredible organization.
If you do the Institute to Expedite the Singularity and take the high road with these people of means, I should go the other way and form the Education Foundation of Longevity and Riches, or I don't know, just making something up, but go the other way and inform people that if they take a little chunk out of their investment portfolio, 5% each, 300 million people in America, 5% each across all those portfolios, and invest them into a mutual fund, for example, which has all of these companies inside of that. I mean, your wealth, your health, and your longevity, your experience with longevity will all be increased simultaneously. Because you're investing in yourself by investing in these companies. And I think that this is an important. This happens to be the system that we live in, and this happens to be the mode of currency that we use. So I think getting this out there to average folk is also important. Incredibly honored to have you both here on Dead Nation, and all the best with your Institute to Expedite the Singularity. It sounds like a fantastic venture. It sounds like you got your work cut out for you. That's not an easy thing to do. You know, but yeah, you'll do absolutely fine. So you know,
And I just
yeah.
No, I just want to say about what Charlie said about Mr. Pickens and what you said a moment ago about strategic investing for life extension. This is a thing that is unfortunately lacking in the life extension movement, and it is simply that people have this broad consensus and interest in this subject because the science is there. But the science itself will advance more quickly. The other institutions that would make use of that science will advance more quickly when people take this active interest, when people become more scientifically and medically literate. And we will see those network effects coming more quickly as people spread the word. So everyone out there, talk to your friends about this idea of life extension. You need to do that now. You need to do it every day. Because in not doing so, you might be doing a disservice to your loved ones. You might be doing a disservice to yourself. There's 110,000 people who are dying of preventable aging illness every day, and by not taking an active interest in this, we are doing our society a disservice. We need to be doing everything that we can to see that this comes to pass as soon as possible.
Like SENS Foundation is absolutely on the forefront of almost reversing aging in a way, and they get $6 million a year. I mean, this is nothing. I mean, if they get that at all, you know, and that is a drop in the bucket. I mean, I know here in Australia, I know Institute for Research of Asphalt probably gets more than that. I mean, you know what I mean. This is cutting edge stuff. These poor organizations that are really on the edge of defeating death and curing aging. You know they get like pittance. They get thank the big donors who have gotten to that point. But it's not. This is a problem with capitalism again. There's holes in it. That there's lots of resources funneled towards entertainment and media and movies, and then yet you get if you're willing, you get $6 million a year to almost defeat the biggest challenge that there is. And Liz, like in the laws sector, which is what becoming the president is all about, which is what you're trying to change on a small level, a medium level, or a large level, a state, federal, or local level. Especially when it comes to these biohackers and this sort of libertarian idea of biohacking and owning your own body and doing what you want. I mean, someone like Liz Parrish shouldn't have to run to Colombia or wherever. They shouldn't have to run to these other foreign countries to escape draconian, laws. Because these people want to put themselves on the line for the better of humanity. And I mean, if she had have died, if she had taken this stuff and she had have died because, America had some preventable ways of doing this safely in their own country with the right regulations and stuff. Imagine the loss of information, and that's why I bring that song up. The loss of information. You wouldn't have got to see Liz Parrish. She wouldn't have got to photobomb you, Ben, because the American government American government would have got her killed because it would have it made everything unsafe and that's awful. But that's the sort of laws that we want to change. People have a right to their own body. People have a right to do what they want. But they also the FDA, Americans have the right to have a safe, ethical way to, experiment with some of these technologies in a safe way, right? And they need the research, and they need the funding, and they need this funding, and they need this research in order to be able to advance these causes. Yeah, someone.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it brings to mind an idea that I think is important, which is that people in advocating for these sorts of things generally, or even in the context of life extension, they might very much concern themselves with appearing to be dignified. And sometimes the people can be a little standoffish in actually stating their goals. No one in this world gets the thing that they want unless they ask for it. So if we can create a protest culture or some kind of more staunch and outspoken position for demanding this, we would be in a better position to be advocating for life extension. And that's it's a feature of what's happened, and people who are critical of what's happened in Greta Thunberg and the climate protests. Just over a year ago, Greta Thunberg was one little girl protesting by herself holding a sign, and now just about 3 weeks ago or so, 4 million people joined her, and the optics of that are incredible. And we should try and make use of those kind of optics for our undertakings for ending aging as well.
So Charlie Cam, it's good you're in the party and doing this, because you can get all the money in the world, but if the regulatory environment doesn't suit, I mean, all the money in the world won't mean anything. What do you say to that?
You're right, but a lot of money can help move policies. And I think, with that, we can organize things. We have the money to make, as Ben had mentioned, a girl like that who was not known before, now she's got millions of followers. If we can make the term or the idea of aging and death as urgent as is the climate change, maybe we'll get people on the street protesting against death. It's a lot to do with marketing, and it's a lot to do with who says it and how it's presented. That's kind of what my goal would be. We want to not only get the money into the hands of the people that can do the research so we can be cured, but let's get celebrities involved so they can, a lot of young people took to the streets when they knew they were going to be drafted to go to Vietnam in the United States. And a lot of people young people have taken the streets when they were getting massacred in that Florida high school. And then you see a lot of people, young people and other people even, because they think that the world's going to come to an end because of climate change. So if the urgency of death, which it is, and can be marketed properly into the people's heads, then maybe we will have a lot of people coming on the street saying, hey, I don't want death, or, something like that. That's my kind of goal. So I think you're right. All the money in the world won't change it, but the money can be converted into passion, and passion is what changes things.
Yeah, you've hit on the 2 points that I actually wanted to say. The first point is that humans respond to drama, okay? And they will be running around on the street now protesting against Trump and this Syria thing. We won't go into that, but there's complicated politics behind that. But they're going to be protesting against that, but they're not going to be protesting. It's a general sort of protest against death and human rights. But again, the energy isn't focused. These green people with Greta Thunberg, again, it's not a focused energy. It's a sort of diluted energy of, we know our general goal, but they don't have the structures there. They don't have this sort of this sort of convergent singularity point that is the Transhumanist Party and that is transhumanism, in order to merge these two together and say, here's an actual outlet. And I had the same problem, and I know many people, the guy just before, Micah Redding and others, they've all had the same problem, that they can see the issues in isolation, and then these isolationist experts come on and say, I'll drag you down the garden path, and then off they go on a merry road. But they can't actually cross that over and say, hey, the northern Syria crisis and the green crisis are one and the same, and we can deal with them through X. And that's the real education gap. That's the real problem that we keep running up against. We need to. There is an education deficit. So, and the other thing is, you're really right, Charlie. And it'll take you. It's just, you need just one Steven Spielberg, one George Lucas, one any other director, David Cameron, any director, one guy to make a mega hit film, and off it goes. Those guys have an immense amount of power, immense amount of distribution power. Your own Transcendent Man. I mean, you're a film guy. You know this. How how powerful these media orgs can be and getting into people's heads. Gattaca, I mean, people like space. I mean, there's a lot of space movies coming out. People like sort of dystopian stuff. I mean, you need just one of these guys to hit on the right note, and bam, you can get a movement against aging and death like you've never seen before. That's a directed, targeted energy. And even if the Transhumanist Party, and some other people get swallowed up in the forward momentum, I mean, who cares at that point? You're on the path to a better, a brighter future, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the goal. And like some of those names you mentioned and other celebrities that are out there, that helps to get the word out in a big way. So that's kind of part of the goal that I'm hoping for.
What's that lady's name? Kim Kardashian, right? She's a lawyer. She's a lawyer, isn't she? Or a solicitor, or whatever you call them now. We call them solicitors.
Yeah,
here.
she's a Mensa member, I believe.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
she's
imagine
very
if
brilliant.
instead of talking about jail rights or whatever, she's talking about against aging and death. I mean, so many people. I don't know anything about these celebrities, but lots and lots and lots of people watch those people, and they endorse everything they do, and they throw their lives at those people. They outsource their life to these people. They live through them. I mean, if she just mentioned that in a tweet. I mean, if she went on about it for a week, or if she came up to one of these meetings, I mean, that's super viral. I mean, she's connected with. I mean, it's just one of these celebrities.
I agree, and I think there's like I said, it's how you deliver the message. That's all about. It's the same principle as how you ask a question. You could get any response you want, and if you deliver a message in a certain way, you can get an emotional response. I mean, if you just say a lot of people are dying, well, most people are used to that. When you start to reconfigure it in such a way as you say, as Ben mentioned, 110,000 people die every day, or let's say you say one person dies every second because of age-related disease. One person every second. I mean, when you start to look at it, and if you can visualize it, you can show that visually, one person dying every second in a room, and 100 seconds later, you got 100 people laying on the floor. I mean, a visual thing like that is powerful. And if people can start to really get that in their head, about one death every second, then it starts to take on a much more emotional meaning than just like, well, some people died, or somebody's old and they die. Let's really get that in the visualization in people's heads, much like what happened with the climate crisis. You'd see pictures of glaciers falling. That's powerful. You see the tornadoes and hurricanes coming one after another that are hitting the southeastern coasts or the islands around the United States. So emotional things. Remember how films and things and people in general, it's not necessarily what you say, it's how they don't remember what you say, they remember how you make them feel. And that's the same with movies, and it's the same almost with anything. So we want to start to reconfigure the idea of what death means, because it would have made no sense to do it 100, 200 years ago, or maybe it would have to expedite things, but now we actually have some way to cure it. So we have to get people to really be impassioned. And that's kind of what my goal is. I know it's Ben's goal, and I hope that's what we can accomplish with the USTP and this whole campaign. And I look forward to doing it. And I know that's part of what you want to do, Steele.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's defeat death. Let's put death out of business. That's the new sort of logo of Detonation. Let's putting death out of business. And I agree. And if you're out there and you're listening and you happen to be listening to the show, I mean, you can do anything. I mean, you whatever your skill is, whether you're a mechanic, an engineer, you work for the council, you're a politician, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you make cabinets for a living, you make clothes. I don't know. You're a fisherman, a farmer. I don't know what your occupation is, but whatever you are, you can use that occupation in a positive way, and you can use your skill set in a way to advance this message. It doesn't matter how big or small you are, who you think you are, or what your skill set is, or anything. You have a voice, and you have skills, and you have tools, and you have technology, and you can talk to your family, you can talk to your friends, you can go out into the community, you can hold a sign up. If that's all you're capable of doing and writing a sign saying, let's defeat death, go and do that. Hold that up in the middle of the road, with your friends. Go on a school strike. I don't care. I'll say it. I mean, everyone seems to be going on a school strike nowadays. Politicians, you go on have a day off. Go and walk out of Parliament or walk out of your Congress thing or whatever, and say, hey, I'm not putting up with signing up to more wars. I'm gonna go and defeat aging and death instead. I mean, if you're if you're in some factory job, I mean, walk off the job, go on a strike. I mean, I don't know, just do whatever you can. You're a powerful person, as an individual and as a collective unit, we can be unstoppable. Ben Zion, you're going to be taking the front stage, front and center, hard policy line, doing all the theatrics up there, pulling the party together. And so I really want to say thank you for all you're doing and all you're going to do in this campaign. I think the party has made its mind up and said that they want you, to be front and center on this. So thank you very much for that. And how are you feeling about this responsibility? It's a huge responsibility, Ben.
Oh yes, it is. It's humbling to consider that I'm in this role, and also very, very exciting. A few moments ago, you guys were talking about the role of the imaging, the messaging, what public personalities might be doing in this sort of thing. And I wasn't able to be available here on video, but people who are looking at this, they see a photo of me giving an acceptance speech at RADFest for this presidential campaign. And in that acceptance speech, I made mention of a brilliant man, Paul Spiegel. He's a ranking officer in the Humanity Plus organization. He's a transhumanist attorney and entrepreneur. His accomplishments are quite nearly too many to list. But one of those recent accomplishments was that he was appointed to a diplomatic position in San Marino, a small country. And I interviewed him on this subject to some degree on my show, and some of it I was to keep under my hat. But now that he was announced, I was happy to name check him, so to speak, on the RADFest stage because this is an incredible accomplishment. And I'll tell you why. Working on this life extension public health service in a small place, earlier we talked about how a relatively small, perhaps, amount of legal funds could be used to really kind of change the system, and that's doubly true in a place of this size. And the optics of that, of building a life extension public health service, of having a country of people who are all fully engaged in preventative medicine and oversight, who are beginning to use data science to allow them to be life extensionists, using personalized medicine and analytics, all of these incredible strategies. When the greater world sees that shining example of what is being accomplished, the rest of us will fall like dominoes. And I think we could see a life extension becoming a central part of other countries' strategies to this end. So Paul Spiegel is a smart guy, and we should be thinking about strategies of this kind. It's good to think about the celebrities. It's also good to think about other ways that we can use optics in a big way, and I think that's certainly one of them.
Interesting you mentioned Paul Spiegel. He's actually a very good friend of mine. And by the way, he is the attorney that I hired to put together the Institute to Expedite the Singularity.
Nice.
He's really brilliant. He understands our movement better than anybody, and I wouldn't have had anybody else other than him. Yeah, he's great.
He's the very best. Yes.
Yeah, and he came on Detonation, and we had a great chat. And yeah, he's dedicated to the cause, and he's a big asset to have. So that's really good, and all the best to him. Being the representative of San Marino in certain districts of the United States, that's a great achievement, and a big opportunity to advance life extension in a small country. It's these little moves all over the planet that we can make, and one of them will break out, and we will hit a sort of a sort of momentum that's unstoppable at some point. Although, and keeping the world together, that's really important. Keeping all these other things functioning is really important as well. Keeping the planes in the air, the ships on the water, the cars driving around, this sort of liberal idea of the trade economy. I mean, this is all important as well, to keep everyone tied together, to keep all the geopolitics out of the story. For now, that's all important as well. Hey, thanks very much, Ben Zion and Charlie Cam, for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
News roundup. Yeah, we're going full. As I said, we're going full Ben Zion 2020 here on this platform now to try and help this out. Let's move this in a positive direction. Let's get everyone out there. Transhumanism Australia also jumping on board Debt Nation. Peter Zing, my colleague, he's happy to support Debt Nation as well. That's the largest transhumanist website and educational foundation facility in Australia. So we're really excited to have them jumping on board as well. As you can see above me, Transhumanism Australia. So go and check those guys out. Really good work from Transhumanism Australia. Peter Zing is an absolute legend. Been in the trenches here in Australia for a long time. There's not much happening here in Australia, but Peter Zing is the Mondala and the center of the Mondala, and they're jumping on board the Debt Nation train as well. So thank you, Ben Zion, Charlie Cam. All the best of the campaign. Stay tuned to Debt Nation for all of your Ben Zion 2020 updates as we roll through to the White House. Thank you very much. And, Debt Nation putting death out of business. Thank you very much, Charlie Cam, Ben Zion.
Thanks,
All right,
fellas.
thanks.
Had fun.